recently we've added a program called Blended Plus. So we're going to talk a little bit about that program obviously today, but I wanted to start just by talking a little bit about the mission and vision of our organization. So of course we have always been all about student learning and individualizing learning for student needs specifically, trying to think of ourselves from a holistic point of view. It's not just about the academics, but we're going to do our best at all times to make sure that we're doing all that we can for our students to help them feel better about themselves as learners, to give them the skills that they need to be successful in the world, but also to get through these courses and off into the next stages of their lives as well. If you're joining us today, your child is probably either entering grade 9, 10, or 11, or 12 for next year. So my children themselves are, I got a graduation, a student who's graduating this year, and one is in grade 9. So I'm in that same boat as you folks are as well. So it's interesting to think about that when we're trying to think about what next stages for us even look like as a family. So when we're talking about the CA and who we are at Calgary Academy, we also are very future focused. We're trying to do the best we can, as I said, for all students at all times, but we know that the world is changing, and that especially even just through this pandemic, the world that we went into the pandemic with is a little bit different than it is coming out of it, that's for sure, if we're coming out of it, and that's the hope for sure, right? But the future of education really seems to be moving more towards the idea of flexibility in learning, not necessarily online learning for everyone, because online learning can be challenging. And I think many of us have had that experience over the last couple of years with our students, our children being in an online learning scenario. Online learning itself really is students at home, kind of by themselves, maybe a connection with a teacher every once in a while, but really driving a lot of their own learning themselves. So they have to be highly motivated and independent learners to be able to manage those things well. And I know from 2 years ago when we were just going into spring break in a couple of weeks, and I remember that back when we first went into spring break and we had to shut down the school for those 3 months. It was okay for some students. Some students really thrived in that kind of an atmosphere, but most students really struggled. So as we were thinking about the Blended Plus program coming into this year, the hope was really to try and drive something that was more engaging for students, that they still had that very close connection with their peers and with their teachers. And really that was driving that flexibility with their learning, as I was saying earlier as well. So we do believe that the future of education and of learning, if you're looking at the research out there today, if you're looking at some of the leading schools that are thinking about this, it does have to do a lot with that flexibility, but also the relationship-based piece as well. So this was our decision that we wanted to start to poke into this and to see what this was really like. So we spent a number of years really thinking about education and the ways that students learn and different approaches to learning. And then this year we've actually started our first 2 grades with the Blended Plus program. So this third stream, remember I talked about the Academy stream and the Collegiate stream. Now we've got the Blended Plus stream. The Blended Plus stream really is the best of both programs. It allows for a lot of flexibility in the learning, as I said, but it also gives you a great deal of support in the classroom for those students that may need it. It has the ability for students to be in the building or at home or even traveling. We've got students that have been doing that Kim might tell you a little bit about later. But it allows that the best parts of that online and face-to-face learning and in-depth experiences that students can have in the field as well as we do some of our off-site experiences. And so that's really the core of what this stream is really all about. And so there's a little bit of a graphic to kind of give you a picture of that as well. That flexible approach, as I mentioned, the engaging in-person learning. We know that a lot of the distance programs or online programs don't have an in-person experience where students could be part of a team or take part in extracurriculars during the day. So then we have the third piece, of course, is the experiential off-campus learning. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes as well. So as I said, we've kind of been in Calgary for about 40 years now. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year amidst a pandemic, which has been challenging. But when we first started out in 1980, 81, I think it was, we started as a school that was specifically for students that had learning disabilities and challenges of some sort, behind in grade level in one or more areas, for instance. In 1994, we launched our collegiate program, which was for students that might have gotten caught up to grade level and were doing better and more independent at that point, or students that were coming to us from outside of the school that were just looking for a bit more of a holistic approach to education and the values support that we have here at Calgary Academy. And then we fast forward to 2021 with the blended learning approach that we've got. So all three programs still exist in the school. Academy and Collegiate really are the K to 12 programs, and our Blended Plus is the 9 to 12 program. I am going to, just before I move on and introduce you to a few more people, these are kind of some of the questions that you might be asking today. Is my child a good fit for this program, possibly? And we've had folks that have joined the program that weren't sure about it at the beginning of the year, that are sold and that are coming back to that program now next year because they believe in the value of it and they believe in what our teachers are bringing to the table with them every single day. So some students that might be a great fit for this, even that flexibility around activities. I know that there's lots of students that might be involved in high performance athletic activities, for instance. We've got a few of those in our programs. Might be students that are looking to get a job and need a little more flexibility around the approach to how they're doing the learning as well. There might be some students that really just prefer that different type of approach, where they can have more flexibility in their schedule to come and go as they need, but also to be able to work from home at the times that fit them the best. We know that the 8 to 4 kind of chunk of time doesn't really work for all students the same way. And so this really allows for students to be able to work at different times of the day to the depth that they need to with specific courses as well. There might be barriers to learning that your son or daughter might have in more typical school settings, and those can be across the board in lots of different ways. We want to make sure that we can remove those barriers so those students are able to access the learning as best as possible. And of course, that choice idea, that choice and voice in that personalized learning environment is very important as well. And we want to be encouraging students, whatever program that they're in, to be able to exercise their choice and voice with what they're doing with their education. I'm going to introduce you to Kim Peterson. Kim is one of our teachers in our Blended Plus program and has been in there all year this year working with our grade 9s and 10s. And Kim has been at the school for almost as long as I have, maybe not quite as long, but knows our students well and has really grown into this position because of her belief in this type of approach as well, but also her belief in that no two students think and learn the same way. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim and let her talk through a few slides here as well.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Peterson. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the general program structure. So now that we've done the big picture overview, talking a bit more about some of the details of it. So as was mentioned before, there's sort of three main components to what it is that we do in the program. So there is a component that is online, and that's just because it does offer us a way of creating maximum flexibility for students in terms of where they are when they're learning. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're not with us. So I don't think I've done a lesson yet this year where I didn't have students in the classroom with me while I was teaching those lessons. And so some students love being at home or being at the library or wherever they want to be and participating through lessons that way. Some of them really want to be in the room with the teacher, and they like the format. They like watching the videos and participating in that format, but they really want to be able to ask their questions out loud. So I have some students taking advantage of that too. There's an in-person component where we are doing learning at school, and I'll go into some more details a little bit later, but big picture idea is that there's certain things that are definitely best done in person. Working collaboratively where we're having discussions and sharing ideas, that always works better when you're with the people in the room. It's not the only way. We obviously do some of that online too, but those are great things to do when we're in the same place together. Doing hands-on activities and labs, those are things that, some things you just need to have a chance to hold things in your hand. When you're figuring out how to do certain math skills, having something to hold on to instead of looking at pictures can make a really big difference in terms of understanding when you're going through those types of learning activities. And then, of course, some of what we do is off campus. So, even this year where there's been significant challenges with getting off site and going on field trips, we've done a lot already. And the idea is that there's a lot of different opportunities for students to have flexibility while also still have lots of opportunities for social interactions with their peers. So I won't spend a ton of time on this, and you're welcome to read through the sections of it, but it's looking at what our online learning component looks like. So it would be live synchronous instruction. However, we do record them. So, we have a student right now who's in Switzerland and is for 2 weeks. And so it's pretty hard for her to attend those lessons at the same time as we're attending them. And so she is able to watch the recordings when it works for her, because she's obviously in a very different time zone. We use lots of different media, so it's not just somebody talking the whole time. We use video, we use interactive tools so that we can interact with one another. And also, as a teacher, I can see how the students are doing. One-on-one conferencing is available to students. And that's even, we'll get into the schedule a little bit later, but there's lots of opportunity for one-on-one or small group support, whether the students are in the classroom at school or whether they're reaching out to us online. That opportunity exists and lots of students take advantage of it. And then we use breakout rooms as well, virtual breakout rooms when we're in that online learning environment. For in-person learning, I sort of already went into this a bit of detail, but this is, we're also doing physical wellness activities during this time. When we're doing phys ed for students, which is a requirement, especially for our grade 9 and 10 students, there's some activities that students, if they choose to do blended phys ed, there's certain activities that they would need to do with the school to make sure that they address all the curriculum outcomes. So we've done activities such as yoga for athletes to hit some of the curriculum outcomes that students might not be able to do from sports that they're doing in their blended learning format. And then we've done some rock climbing, and we're going cross-country skiing in Bragg Creek tomorrow. So there's lots of things that we do where that is necessary. And then anything that we want to do that we want to see as truly independent work, tests and exams are a good example of that. We do those in person as well. Or if I just want to see students try one question, so I can just make sure that, they really get it on a math topic because it's a really tricky one, then that would happen when we're all in person so that I can actually see all of their work and try to catch where misunderstandings are. And so those opportunities are very much taken advantage of, because when we're in person once a week, it's really important that we take advantage of the time that we have available. Students have flexible time in their schedule, and that they can do, at home. Again, they can be at school. We're available during those blocks of time where students can reach out to us if they need any help, again, whether they're online or whether they're in person. There's lots of opportunities for social learning. This picture here, these three students are working together on an assignment, and just this is in our classroom here. And that's one thing that's really important too, is that whether we're doing our online learning or it's an in-person day, or it's that blended flex time that's available for students where they can be working independently or with their peers, our classroom is open the whole time and there are teachers there so that can be accessed. So that opportunity exists for any students who want to take advantage of that. And then, of course, the off-campus learning. So there's lots of things that we've done so far this year. We've gone to the Biogeoscience Field Station out in Kananaskis, and which was a great program. And they did some really great things for us there, where they designed a hybrid program for us. And so we did some pre-learning with the teachers at the field station before we left, to figure out how do you ask good questions and to learn about the place we were going. And then we spent a whole day on site, which was one of our normal in-person days, except they got to spend the whole day gathering data on questions that they asked about the environment that we were in. And then the next day after that, we were back online again with one of their educators, helping the students understand, what does this mean now? What can I do with this data? How can I make sense of it? What new questions do I have? Those types of things. So that, those types of opportunities are going on all the time. Service learning, we've connected with ARCS and we'll be volunteering with them after March break. And we've got some other goals in the works in terms of working with Brown Bag and for Calgary's kids as well. So community networks, making connections with students or with people in the community with our students is all part of this. And as I said, that physical education component, like our cross-country skiing in Bragg Creek tomorrow that we'll be doing. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Ross, our high school assistant principal, who's going to talk a little bit about the plus in Blended Plus.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? I'm Mike Ross, the assistant principal for the senior school, as Ms. Peterson just said. I get to talk about kind of the fun parts. Not that the classroom isn't fun. I gotta stop saying that. Not that, yeah, the enjoyment and the way to connect in the school, because I know people think of flexible programs like this. They're coming in, they're not coming in. Do they have a chance to really connect with what goes on with the organization? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. Everything that is available to our students who are in our other streams that are in school every day 8 to 4 is available to students and part of our Blended Plus program. And that's why we think the plus is really important. For example, there you see musicals. We run 2 a year. One is one junior production, one senior production. Typically, a lot of the kids will help out from the senior school will help out with the junior production. But it's a really fun experience. Give kids a really good chance to get a chance into theater. Again, with all the things at Calgary Academy is, we're not a huge school. Our high school is about 250, 300 kids. You're not going to find, if there's something you want to be involved in, it's easy to get involved, and there's always room. They're always, all of our groups are always looking to get more people involved. So, musicals, you have front of stage where you're acting, or we have lots of people that get in the back where they're directing, or the tech theater side of things. So those typically happen after school, and they're available to any student at Calgary Academy, enrolled in Calgary Academy. So musicals are definitely a big part of what we do here. And then athletics. Our athletics program is a strong athletics program. We compete in the ISAA, which is the Independent School Association. So we have a league we play in. Winners of the leagues have the opportunity to attend provincials. We compete against all the other, other private schools within the city. So we have all your sports that you might expect. So your volleyball, basketball, badminton, soccer, all the things you might expect. And then we add in different things. We've talked about frisbee golf, ultimate frisbee. We have both a golf team as well as a golf program. And you can choose which of those you want to take part in. Our sports are pretty fun, and we do as much as possible to get everyone in playing that wants to play. So we've had this year we had 2 basketball teams, a JV and a senior team, because we had so many students that wanted to play. And again, the nice thing is when you go out to tryouts for a sports team, there's not 85 club kids you're competing with. As we always say, we're jacked if we get one club player. So it's a good opportunity to take part in sports and feel a part of the school culture there. So sports is another big important thing, and absolutely available to all of our Blended Plus programs, your students. And then we have travel studies. So this is one of probably our most popular thing we do in the high school here. So we have kind of different parts of our international travel studies. So for example, we have a golf trip each year that any student can sign up for, where they go down during the weekend of the Waste Management Golf Tournament. If you've ever seen it, it's the Rowdy Golf Tournament. But they take them down there and they, attend the tournament for a couple of days, see the professionals play, but then they play a lot of golf around then too. So that's one international trip. We also have our Art and Drama international trip, where they actually go to New York and spend the day going to museums and galleries, and the evenings attending Broadway plays. So you can imagine that experience for the students to be able to attend those. And then, with our big program, our big international travel studies program is, we call it ITS, and while it encompasses all the other ones, this is the main focus of ITS. Is we take every year 2 to 3 groups of students on their 2-week spring break, and we go visit different parts of the world. And the students will spend 1 week touring and seeing all the touristy stuff in the city. And then they spend a week giving back, and they spend a week volunteering somewhere in that country and helping out a community. And so I always think of the second part as really experiencing the culture. I know the first part is when we technically do all the cultural stuff, but when you're in the backwoods of Cambodia building a bathroom with no one that speaks a lick of English, you really dive into that experience, and you really get a sense of how the people live and how they communicate. And there's a lot of life lessons you can pick up there. So for example, this year we're continuing with our trips. I know a lot of schools chose not to, but we're going to 2 trips to Ecuador and 1 to Morocco. And we actually leave next week. I'm on the trip to Ecuador, and I've been to Cambodia and Peru and Morocco as well. And they're always a fantastic experience. But along with these trips, going on the trip, leading up to the trip, we have weekly meetings where the students learn about where they're going, the culture. They learn how to travel as well, because many of the students have traveled, maybe to a resort with their parents. So teaching them how to, shrink their luggage I laugh. I see Miss Darts on this call. She's also going with us to Ecuador, and she's experiencing that how to shrink your luggage into one bag, but how to pack, what types of things you need to go on a trip in terms of vaccines or bug spray, all of that stuff to go travel around the world. But it's a great experience for them to learn that. So when they leave Calgary Academy, some of them have had 3 years where they've done numerous international trips, and some of them will continue to travel. I had a student in a couple of weeks ago who said he's been all over the world since he graduated, and it really started with ITS, taking him to Cambodia, my first trip 10 years ago. So he was, so we really believe in that lifelong, giving back. And as well with that, we do altruist activities around Calgary where we give back to different areas. So we've been to the drop-in center, we've been to brown bagging. We do, because we believe that's a big part of this program, is not just realizing what need exists outside of Calgary, but what's also in Calgary as well. And the students give up their time to give back there too. So a really valuable experience all ways around, and a really popular program here at Calgary Academy. And again, I know I keep repeating this, but available to every student enrolled at Calgary Academy. So the real point of what I'm just saying is, students don't need to feel like, oh, I'm just, I'm in the blended program, I come in and out, I don't really connect with kids, because they have absolutely every ability to connect with the students in all the fun aspects of high school. I said fun again. I mean, the learning is actually fun. And then this part here is talk about our career. So we have a dedicated career counselor. They will meet with a student every year from grade 10, 11, and 12. These are scheduled meetings, so it's not by chance. If they make an appointment, maybe they'll come in. There's an organized, structured meeting that they will go to. And in those meetings, so starting in grade 10, they'll have those meetings towards the end of their grade 10 year, and they'll do a lot of personality, interest level tests to give kids an idea of what job exists out there. Kids kind of forget, think the only job in medical is doctor. And it's realizing, oh no, there's a million different jobs in there that get you connected and working in the medical science field that aren't just a doctor. And so they start with that in grade 10 and hit the wide range. By grade 11, you start to narrow down a bit. What schools are you thinking? Maybe what programs? Are you enrolled in the right courses? We want to make sure, if you don't need a -1, you're not taking it, but make sure you do have those if you need it, or if you want to keep options open. And then when you hit grade 12, they do everything from helping you apply to scholarships, or, as Ms. Dart says, you send a credit card in with your kid and they'll walk you through the school applications. We want to make sure that we're there to support kids all the way through, because we know it's important we know that's a struggle and some people don't know exactly what they're doing. So we want to make sure that everything's in line for you to have the best chance at any school that you want to. And then it doesn't just stop there. Once you graduate from Calgary Academy, you're always welcome back. You're always a knight. And we'll connect with you after. So say you want to change programs, say you want to upgrade something, say you've taken a year and you did an upgrade and you need to write an exam. You can come in and meet with them. I saw a student in from last year yesterday meeting with our career counselor, and they were just changing kind of something that they wanted to do. And so they come in, they connect. We can walk them through all the options that exist. So I always like to tout our career counseling, because I believe it's a really important and involved structure of what we offer here at Calgary Academy. And one thing I didn't touch on when I was talking about all the extracurriculars is we do have a ton of clubs as well. Lots of lunchtime clubs that run. We have a huge Dungeons and Dragons group. We have a creative writing group. We have music. We have a leadership. Our Calgary Academy student council or student executive is a big part of the school. They often run numerous events at the school, so really involved in everything that goes on, and all students are a part of that too. So we have lots of clubs, lots of extracurriculars that every student can be a part of, and that's really the plus we think with this blended program, is the ability to come in and connect with kids within a flexible learning program is really valuable. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Ms. Peterson, and she's going to walk through some of the stuff that the students do.
Hello again. So on that note, actually, I'm going to leave that slide up for just a second. Jesse Hallwell was actually in just last week meeting with our students about beginning this process of thinking about what sort of plans and, even just knowing which courses they need to be choosing for next year so that they're on the right path for what they might be interested in. Or if they don't know what they're interested in, then what's the best path to take? So yeah, an amazing program at the school for all of our students, and something that definitely we're taking advantage of that expertise in Blended Plus. So I just wanted to share some pictures of some of the things that we've been doing just to really highlight some of the, the flexibility and all of the in-person learning opportunities that we have and off-site learning, I think is really important. So when talking about the off-site learning opportunities, a couple of these are from that biogeoscience trip that I was talking about earlier, but we've been to Telespark and we did a chemistry program there. And what's really great is that actually I was teaching grade 9 and 10 at the time, and we were doing the chemistry unit at the same time. So we're able to do a trip together that was relevant to both grades of students. And that's one thing that I think is really unique, is that we have a homeroom that is grade 9 and 10 combined, which was seamless, which there's a lot of research that supports as well, but it was really nice to actually live that for the first time for myself. But they're definitely separated for their academic courses, and we bring them together when it makes sense too, because we are still obviously working towards those curriculum outcomes. We've had an opportunity to build some structures for the playground at our local school, and we really wanted to give back to a community, but it was really hard to volunteer for anything earlier in the year. But one of the things that I think is really important that we made a priority right from the beginning is the importance of community for us. So that picture there in the bottom right, super fun. That was us at Skyline Luge. If you haven't had a chance to go, you really should. But that was our very first day of school. So our first day of school, we were offsite doing activities, getting to know each other, because we were bringing together students from 2 grades. We had students who were new to the school completely, and then students who had been at the school for a while. But then because of cohorting the year before, didn't even know some of the other students, even though they're in the same school, because of the necessary cohorting during early COVID that we were doing. So it was really important that everybody get a chance to get to know each other. And so we did some team building activities there, some mini golf and some downhill karting, just because right away we knew it was going to be really important to build that sense of community when it is so different what everybody's schedule actually ends up looking like. We wanted to make sure that we had those relationships built from the beginning. But of course, when we're on site, there's a lot of learning that's going on then too. And one thing that I've definitely recognized teaching this program this year is that when you only have the students on site or on field trips 1 day a week, you really recognize the value of that time when you're together. It's all about making the best use of that time possible for things that really are best to do with all of us together in the same space. So lots of hands-on labs. There's a picture there of a skull that we were analyzing for a biodiversity program at the Calgary Zoo. There's a picture there with motion tracks because we had some of our students were having a hard time understanding in physics component of Science 10 what these different graphs meant when we were looking at distance time graphs and velocity time graphs. And so we brought in Neil Frail there, one of our school's instructional design leads, and he came and worked with the students and got them set up so they can watch these graphs being made in real time using this technology, which really helps make those things make sense. And so that's one thing that's important too, I think, is to highlight that we have access to these other experts in our building, that Blended Plus students still have that opportunity. If there's any extra support that we need from our instructional designers or from our learning supports teams, it's still available to those students. And this is probably one of the most important things that I can emphasize, I think, for a lot of people, especially anybody who's hesitant about this change. We have a classroom that's ours all day, and students can be in there all day if they want to be, but they don't have to be. So Wednesdays are our in-person day right now for grade 9s and 10s, and all students are expected to be at school on those days. The rest of the week, students can choose to be there or choose to be working from somewhere else. So we have some students that we only see on Wednesdays in person, but we'll see them virtually. They'll come to all of their lessons where we're online together, and they'll reach out if they have any questions, and we'll reach out to them if we just want to check and make sure things are okay. We have other students that come in a couple of times a week based off of their schedule, or if they want to do their options courses in person, so things like music or drama, they come in for those classes. And we have other students that we see all day, every day. And, they're here because They want that flexibility in the program in terms of how they're using their time. And I'll get to the schedule here in just a minute so I can explain that better. But they also want to be able to be around friends that they've made, not only in this program, but in the academy and the collegiate programs. And they want to be able to be part of all of those other things that Mike was talking about there. And so they actually prefer to be here because they find them more productive here. They just want to be able to have more control over their learning and how they're using their time when they're learning. So this is our current grade 10 schedule. So I just want to highlight a few key points here in our schedule. So you can see that middle bit there on the Wednesdays. That's when we are all together. So every Wednesday we're either going off somewhere. Next week we're going to do some team building and some problem solving work at the locked room escape room. Those types of activities happen on Wednesdays, as well as when we come back in the afternoon, we're doing curriculum-based lessons and some hands-on activities with those. So that's always on Wednesdays. You can see the other days of the week, there's a section that's in yellow from 9 to roughly 11:15. Those time slots are when we're running our online lessons where we're all coming together and learning what it is that students need to learn for the curriculum outcomes and to be able to move on in the course and have the skills that they need to work on their assignments that they'll be given. There's a dark blue section that you can see scattered on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and those are blended flex learning times. And what that means is those are times where the teachers are fully available, whether in person or online. But the students don't have to be in person during that time. They don't have to log in during that time. As long as they're staying on top of their work, then they have the flexibility to be working when they want to. If they are getting all their work done and 8:30 in the morning does not work for them because their rhythm just doesn't work that way in their sleep cycle, that's fine as long as they're there on time for their morning class. That's the really critical thing. So those times totally available. Now, if students are falling behind, of course, we don't want to let them fall too far behind because that becomes very stressful and it's important to avoid that. And that's one of the big differences between our program and some of the other more flexible programs out there. It's not that everything is released at once and then students just work through and they have to figure out how to plan that big batch of learning throughout a long period of time. We release our assignments and our lessons on Tuesday, and then everything is due the following Monday. So there's a week's worth of stuff that's released that students can work through at their own pace and decide how they are going to be budgeting their time with that due date in mind. So a week is still, it's work to learn how to manage that, right? A lot of our students, I don't think many students have the self-directed learning skills in place already to be able to plan out a week's worth of learning. And so this is a great safe window where we can actually give students the opportunity and the support to make that planning. And we work very intentionally with them in terms of how to plan what their learning is going to look like for the week. But if we get to Monday and some things didn't make it in and we haven't really heard anything from the student, then we know it's time to reach out, make sure everything's okay. Usually that's a sign that somebody didn't understand something and just didn't want to, they feel bad about asking for help sometimes. And so that gives us an opportunity to reach out directly and offer that help and make sure that they're okay. If we need to redesign their learning plan and what their planning and prioritization looks like, we do that. So there's very intentional work on those executive functioning skills in this program because you need to learn them. They take time to learn, and this is a great opportunity to do that sort of within bumpers so that you don't go for weeks on end and realize that things have snowballed, because again, that's not very good for our mental health when that happens. So that's something that if students are worried about, maybe this is not a good fit because sometimes I don't get my work in, if they're willing to work on it, that is the biggest decider of success in this program, is students willing to learn those skills and willing to get help when they need it. That's what really matters. And students who are looking for extra support in this program have had no problem getting that extra help when they've wanted to have it. Last thing I should talk about actually before I move on and pass it back to Tim. You'll see phys ed and integrated studies there at the end of the day, every day. So this is the general schedule that our grade 9s and 10s are using this year, because this matches our phys ed and integrated studies, or options, sometimes we call it, I used that earlier, schedule for the rest of the school. And so this program has been matched very much to the time or to the schedule of the rest of the school, so that it provides the opportunity for these students to do in-person phys ed if they want to, or to do in-person, as I said, drama, or if they want to do in-person art, robotics. Those types of opportunities still exist for the students in Blended Plus if that's something that they're looking for. And so that's why we've matched that schedule. If students don't want to do that, if they want to do a blended version of phys ed or integrated studies, that is something that is available to them. So for phys ed, there are some requirements that we work with, and we have a member of the phys ed team that works specifically with our students in terms of what they need to have to make sure that they're getting their credits and they've hit all the requirements of the curriculum outcomes, especially in grade 10. And then with the integrated studies, again, they could do, this year we did multimedia and art, and next year we're looking to add photography to that as an option for our students in the blended format if they'd prefer to not come in. If they're coming in for integrated studies, they have full access to all of what we offer to the rest of Academy and Collegiate, and that would be with students from those programs as well. So if somebody is really looking to meet a lot of people, because some of us really thrive on that, then that would be a good opportunity for them too. Our lunchtime is also the same time as the rest of the high school, again, so that if they want to be part of those lunchtime clubs, or if they just want to hang out with some friends that they've made in the other programs, they have the flexibility and the ability to do that. Okay, so I'm going to pass this on to Tim again.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks to Mike too, for talking us through a little bit of that and getting to the place. Just for a couple more slides here, and then we'll take a few moments for questions. But I just wanted to just pause on some of the program feedback, because as parents, you're trying to make a decision that's the best for your children. And these were some responses that we got from some of our parents, and I like that middle one there. It's the right tool at the right school. Like I said, online learning or some of these types of approaches can be good, but you really do have to have the right school and the right approach for them to be very successful. And we feel like we've got that here at Calgary Academy. I just wanted to touch on numbers a little bit, because I know that that's probably important for you folks to know as well. So there is an admissions deposit and a new family initiation fee, as there are at most of the independent schools. The tuition comes in at the same level as our collegiate program, but it includes the actual offsite experiences that Kim was talking to you about, other than the athletics ones and some of the bigger trips like Mike was talking about. This would include all of the programs that we do within the Blended Plus program to make sure that that's all covered within your tuition fee. There's also another piece of it that we've added in there, which is the optional one-way busing for families that are interested in that. This is just for the Blended Plus program. We've also opened it up for K-4, but it's really for the Blended Plus program, so that students could be dropped off in the morning first thing and be picked up midday, or the opposite. They could be dropped off midday and then picked up at the end of the day by bus and taken home that way. So there is that option there that's at a lower rate for sure, $1,400 per student for that. So as I said, if you're interested in any more information around this, for sure we're here for you at all times. We'd love to be able to talk through this with you as well. You can visit blended.calgaryacademy.com to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the program on a day-to-day basis, see some of the blogs, testimonials. But also, if you have interest, please do reach out to admissions at calgaryacademy.com. And we'd like to encourage you to come in and meet Kim and Charles and chat a little bit more about the program, because it really is, when you get a sense of the school and see the space that they've got working there, it'll make a lot more sense as well as to how that might fit for your son or daughter too. So again, just as an overview, that experiential learning that we want to make sure that our students get a good chance to dig into. It happens a bit more frequently in our Blended Plus program. The expert teachers that we have, Kim and Charles, are amazing. They've been around a long time here. They understand what it means to do great work with students. We do have small class sizes across the board in our school, but especially in Blended Plus, there is an opportunity for that one-on-one, and the help that you need is at your fingertips at any moment as well. In-person experiences that the students are involved in, they're intense on those Wednesdays, and they're very experiential based, and it allows for that flexibility as well. And again, as Mike was talking to, that access to the extracurricular programs that you wouldn't get necessarily in an online program. So I'm going to stop presenting now and just open it up to see if there's any questions that you might have. Again, I would encourage you to just give us anything that you might have that we can chat about right now. So you can, as Jordan says, you can throw those questions in the chat, or if you want to pop your camera on and your mic, feel free to do that right now too. It was kind of an abrupt. Okay, questions. Okay, well, while you're thinking, if you got any questions, oh, no, I thought that's just Irina.
Just Irene. I was going to say,
you
you must have done a really good job and they're letting you off easy.
Yeah, again, I
don't
think
come off
this is
easy.
it's all taking it in, I think, at times, and really takes some time to process through that. Again, I would encourage you, if you have any interest at all, to reach out and to see if this might be a great fit. And like I said, we're happy to have you in the building now that we've been able to open up for families to come in a bit more. So if you do want to come by and see what this looks like and meet Kim and Charles in person and see what the room looks like and the spaces that we've got in the school, yeah, just reach out to admissions and they'll be able to work you through that piece as well.
Definitely. Thank you for your time today.
Oh, there's a question from Carla. Yeah, we've got, I live in Cochrane too. Hi, Carla. There's no catchment area. It really just depends on the ability to get to the school. So, but there are buses that go out to Cochrane and Springbank and Bears Paw. So really the only place in the city that they don't go is to kind of the northeast, because we don't have many families in that area, but north central we certainly do, and deep south. I see David typing a question, so I'll pause. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. And like I said, please do reach out and we'll be happy to answer some more questions that you might have. That's a great point, Jordan. Yes, if you want to put your email into the chat, we can send you today's recording if you'd like that, or more information as well. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon.